Good morning. Actually, it's afternoon in my leafy area of Surrey where I live. Unfortunately, I do have a road that runs there, and every now and again I get some very noisy buggers who drive down that road with very noisy cars. So I apologise for the noise, but it is actually cooler doing this out here than it is in my house under the lights. So I thought, well, you know, what the hell, I would actually stand on the balcony to my house and I would actually do this from there with a beer in hand, because it is the afternoon and it is hot. It is extremely hot in the UK at the moment. Where I live at the moment, it is touching 27, 28 degrees Celsius, which for England is pretty unheard of. I know, I hear you say. Somewhere like Jamaica or southern US, you know, that you'd have those sort of temperatures sort of early April, but here we don't have those temperatures. It's causing all kinds of problems with things like Wimbledon and what have you, because it's too hot. There you go. I thought tennis was a summer sport. Anyway, the first thing I'm going to talk about this week is all to do with this t-shirt. So those of you who are astute, let me stand back a bit, I'm not sure you can see this. Okay, so it says Dr. Teath and the Electric Mayhem. Okay, so many of you are going to say, who the hell are Dr. Teath and the Electric Mayhem? Well, you have to be a sort of certain age. That's how I'll put it, a certain age. So I'm a child of the 70s. Okay, I was born in the early 70s, I grew up in the 70s, and one of the big things I remember about my childhood was watching the Muppet Show on a Sunday afternoon. It always used to be on a Sunday afternoon in the UK, just before sort of the religious singing programs used to be on, shall we say, and leave it at that. But the Muppet Show always used to be on a Sunday evening, and as a child you used to watch the Muppet Show just before you had Sunday tea. So I grew up with the Muppets, and the Muppets took over a place in London called the O2, which is a massive arena that was built for the millennium. They took over that last night and I went to see the Muppets. And even better, what I saw was a 15-minute gig by the Electric Mayhem. I mean, come on. This is the band, the house band for the Muppets, right? And you have Dr. Teath, who plays keyboards. You have Floyd, who plays bass. Janice, who plays rhythm and lead. Was it Zoot, who plays the saxophone? I'm not sure who the guy who plays the trumpet's called. And of course you have Animal, who plays the drums. But we had a 15-minute concert as part of the whole show last night. We had a 15-minute concert from the Electric Mayhem, and I have to be honest and say everybody was up and rocking. And then they proceeded the 15-minute concert with the Muppets do Bohemian Rhapsody. Well, if you've never seen the Muppets do Bohemian Rhapsody, it's something that's worth watching, because it was incredibly good. It was very, very good done live. I have to be honest and say it was very, very good done live. I know it's not strictly about keyboards, and I know it's not strictly about music, but you know, sometimes you have to sort of, I don't know, sort of expand the boundaries of the scope of the channel to be able to talk about something that actually is well worth going to see. So, unfortunately, they only did, I think, 2 nights in the UK. I think that's all it was. But I wouldn't be surprised if they expand the tour, and those of you who live in other parts of the world, or maybe other parts of the UK, might actually see the Muppets do your area of the world quite quickly. The next thing I'm going to move on to is the Oasis. So, as you probably well know from various weeks of watching this and some of the videos that started to go up on the channel, I've been upgrading the Oasis to where it really needs to be when they discontinued it. So when they discontinued it in 2009, the Oasis itself was up on operating system 1.3.3a. It had 7, well, no, more than 7, was it? HD CX3 strings ESX3 mod 7L8. So it had 8 engines that had been released by Korg. Now the MOD and the LAC engines were actually chargeable, as was funny enough, the EXS3 engine. They were all chargeable by Korg, and I think at the time Korg charged about $250 for those particular engines, but they are very, very good. But when they discontinued the model in 2009, as long as you were registered on Korg Usenet, you were able to apply for those engines, and you got them for free. So anyway, I've done that. They've all been uploaded onto the Oasis. So this week, what I decided to do was do the sort of final bits, which is actually open the Oasis up and get in and add more RAM to it, and change the battery on the clock. Sorry, the battery on the board, because it was throwing an error message. So I've done that. I opened the machine up this week. Unfortunately, I didn't get as much video time of the actual insides of the machine as I would have liked to. That was purely because when I opened the machine up this week, I happened to do it on a night when it was extremely hot, and with the lights that I needed to have on so you guys could see inside the machine itself, I was actually sweating buckets. So I didn't spend really as much time as I wanted to actually doing the inside of it, but you can clearly see on the video that it is a computer. There is a motherboard in there, because obviously the RAM just slots into it, as does the battery. So I did all that. The other thing that was really interesting about the Oasis this week was, when I was looking at it, is when you look at the end plates of the Oasis, you'll notice there's wire mesh, and I just thought that was for cooling. Well, it is for cooling because there's actually a fan in the machine itself, which you very rarely hear. But there's actually a quiet fan in there that actually is sucking air in from one end of the keyboard, and it actually flows. As I'm looking at it, it flows right to left, and it's actually pushing air across the entire keyboard. So what I actually found was, because of that, the inside of the keyboard at one end was particularly dusty, where obviously it was sucking in dust. So I can imagine if you've bought one of these things that has been gigged or has been in a studio and used for a number of years, you're probably going to find that the insides of it are very, very dusty. And as we all know, dust is dangerous, because dust has the capacity to actually short circuit tracks on the boards. So what I would say is, if you have got the situation where you are able to get into it, and it's actually relatively an easy thing to get into, is get into and give it a good hoover, and get rid of that dust, or just suck it out, just to protect yourself from dust particles laying on the board and eventually short-circuiting tracks. Because if they start short-circuiting tracks, the likelihood is they're going to start short-circuiting components, and then the components are going to go, and you sort of get the drift. So that's where we are with the Oasis. The battery still report, even though I've changed the battery, it's still reporting that there is an issue with it. So I'm going to probably spend some time this afternoon, if I can, Googling it, just to sort of find out what could be causing that issue. Because it's a brand new battery, it's a brand new Duracell battery that's gone in there. I know it's pushing out 3 volts because I tested it before I put it in. It took me long enough to get it actually out of the paper cartridge it came in. They don't like things coming out of the package in Duracell, I can honestly tell you that. But we'll see where we go with that. And as you know, this is not going to be particularly long today, so health warning, it's probably not particularly interesting, like one of the videos I did this week. The other thing that came to mind was last week I sort of said about legacy parts. Now a lot of keyboards obviously are made from plastic. Most of them are rigid plastic, and then you have things like buttons, etc., that are either made of a less rigid plastic, or they're made of a like a foam, more of a foamy type plastic. I'm trying to think what it is, but the soft plastic, the sort of type, it's soft plastic. It normally has a contact actually embedded into the plastic that when you press down makes contact with the circuit board. So they're either one or the other. And what I've sort of started realising is that last week I sort of made this thing about 3D printing and injection moulding, and said, well, if there's anyone out there that wants to have a go, then maybe we could get something going in terms of 3D printing and injection moulding, and start identifying these components that people seem to be struggling to get hold of. Things like, you know, and I'm talking about the components that always go missing. So I'm talking about, you know, slider caps. So, you know, the slider's still there, but the cap's missing. So that sort of thing, or pot heads. So again, you know, the pot's there, you can still twiddle the pot, but the actual plastic knob that went over the top of the pot has gone, and you want to replace it with an original, but you can't because the manufacturer's no longer making those anymore. So, you know, there has to be a market out there for this. Now, I said about injection moulding. Somebody came back to me and said about 3D printing, and maybe 3D printing actually was the way to go rather than what I said about injection moulding. To be honest, I can see merits in either of these. Now, if you went down the injection moulding, once you got the mould developed, which I don't see as being a particularly big thing, you can actually knock out lots of components very, very quickly. So you can build up a stock of these things very, very quickly at a very, very low unit price. Now, the thing I see about 3D printing is you can print anything you like 3D, as long as you can scan it and create 3D computer-aided design image that the 3D printer needs. But in terms of printing large volumes of stuff, you can't print large volumes of stuff. You are printing one at a go, or maybe several at a go if you can sort of CAD model up, if you know what I mean, multiple prints. But I can't see you printing large volumes, so they're sort of more ad hoc things. Now, maybe that's the way to, maybe that is the way to go, because I mean, I was looking at somebody commented on the channel, and I thought about it, and I thought about it some more. And maybe that is the way to go, because, you know, we're not talking about vast volumes of these things. We're talking about probably hundreds, no more. But you people who run legacy tech are always going to need this stuff. So if you've got a 3D printer set up and you live somewhere in the south of England and you want to have a go at seeing if we can get these things set up, printed and promoted, give me a call. Well, don't give me a call, drop me a message on here. Because my number's not on here, of course, so you can't give me a call, but I will call you back. So, told you it's not going to be a very long one this week. It's far too hot to spend time talking. As somebody once said, it's valuable drinking time. Have a good one. Have a safe journey to wherever you're going this week, and I'll see you next week. So this is the point in the video where I turn around to you, my viewer, and say, if you enjoyed the content of this video, please give it a thumbs up. The way the Google and YouTube analytic engines work is that the more likes you get against a video, the more it gets promoted by YouTube and Google, and therefore more people with the similar interests to what you have and I have get to see this content. This channel is driven by my love of music technology. That's what it's called, the Music Tech Guy thought. If you've got queries, want to ask questions about themes or issues I raise on this channel, please, please, please do. Put your comments into the comment section below the video, and I will try to address whatever issue it is you've raised or whatever question you've raised. If it's something to do with me making future videos in terms of how to do something on a particular piece of equipment I possess, please feel free to say that as well. I can't promise to make videos on all the requests I get, but I do have a jolly good go at making most of them. Around about here is the subscribe button. Again, to do with the YouTube and Google analytic process, the more subscribers the channel gets, the more the channel gets promoted, and the more people get to see the content that you have obviously just watched. If you want to see my latest video, it will be in one of these two boxes on this side of the screen. Also, there is a second box there, and that video will be chosen for you by YouTube based on your YouTube preferences. I look forward to the next time that we interact. And I do mean interact, because I always enjoy reading your comments back to me. But for now, bye bye.